Hey, Say, how you going? Today we're going to be talking about why Bitcoin is sinking. So let's get into it.
Yep.
So first slide. So obviously the market's been going down lately. I think it's hit a new bottom of about I think 54,800 before. So it has been going really crazily down. So I think what is causing all of this chaos in the markets, I think we got in the next slide. What is some of the reasons for this chaos? So but if you look at it over a year time, it has gone up over 31% over a year. But last month or so it has declined, and there are some market forces which are causing this decline. So few of them obviously has increased extremely compared to last month. The greed index, if you look at it, last month it was extreme greed, and right now we're in extreme fear zone. So what's your thought on some of this?
Yeah, I think it's just standard sentiment analysis here. Like a lot of things have happened. Like there's a lot of news which caused this downfall or downturn. I mean, we'll get into the news part of it and just break it down a bit. But yeah, I think it's just natural Bitcoin cycles. It goes up and down day to day. Like I think even without this sentiment, like it was pretty volatile. In general, it's a volatile asset. So.
Exactly. So So obviously, according to Plan B, he put a nice little trade on it. So he said the German government is selling roughly about 50,000 Bitcoin, and Mt. Gox is also giving away 142,000 Bitcoin back to investors, which some of them could sell. And however, all this data indicates there's not structurally any weakness in the crypto market itself. It's just the fear of all these entities selling.
Yeah, I mean, it's just some standard supply and demand economics there. Like more supply flooding onto the market will price it down a bit. Like people are looking to sell it at whatever price may come. A lot of these people who are these Mt. Gox holders, they've been holding this for a while and haven't had an opportunity to sell this. So, now it gives them this opportunity. So, I don't think they would be minding it. Like they would have bought these coins back when they were a few $100s, and now it's in the tens of thousands, 50, $60,000. Like it's life-changing money. So it makes sense for them to sell while they can.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to the next slide. So obviously, Dr. Van had a nice trade on it. We got German government who had roughly about 50,000 Bitcoin at the start of it, somewhere around the January mark. Now they're down about less than 42,000 right now. So they've sold about 8,000 Bitcoin onto the market. I think last few days they sell, I think, roughly about 3,500 Bitcoin, according to some of the sources we got. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, I guess, for them to sell it as well. Like, because I mean, they are a government, so they're anti-Bitcoin in a sense. They want to have their own currencies and they have their own debts and they want to service them. And I think they got these assets by seizing them from illegal activities. So, the price has appreciated a lot as we saw in the earlier chart, went to about 70,000 and it dropped a little bit, but from when they were holding, it would make sense for them to sell that, get some money back from it. Um, but at the end of the day, it's not anything it's a bad decision in a sense, like for me. But yeah, they can do what they want with it.
Hmm. I think hopefully they eventually understand the value of it, I guess, one day.
Yeah, I mean they're selling it for euros, which is their currency, but like they're trying to fund their own activities by selling Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, like this is not like they can print more money. It's just their own cycle that they're using. Bitcoin is probably the only safe haven that they have, but yeah, they don't what they can, I guess.
It'd be interesting to see. I think they're probably just testing the water how much Bitcoin can they can control, I guess. But yeah, it'd be interesting.
Hmm.
Let's get to the next slide. So obviously we got Hash Crypto here. He put a nice little trade on it too. He said Mount Gox dump fund. Gox will start repaying about 146,000 Bitcoin back to the market this month. Uh, let's some of the clarification around this fund is it's a lot of them will go into three phases. So first they'll get three tranches of it. So first will be early payments, which will happen roughly in July to October. Second one would be final creditors, and the third one would be final payment, which happened later in the year. So actually, some of the other things too is Bitcoin was trading at roughly around $600 when Mt. Gox was hacked, and the holders were already 100x on that. So given that already in a bull market, selling would be significantly less. Let's assume like they're thinking about roughly 50% of this Bitcoin, even they will sell on the market. I think these guys would be making roughly about $2.1 billion on that. So right now, the market can handle roughly about 6 to 10,000 Bitcoin with all the pressure from ETFs, all the buying pressure from ETFs, and someone like Mr. 100 and stuff buying. So it'd be interesting to see if the market can absorb what the Mt. Gox is selling pretty much in just over a week's worth. So it's not a big deal. It's not a
Yeah,
huge amount.
yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. I think the other thing is like the ETFs give liquidity for these a lot of these companies, um, and the institutions which are looking for a way to buy this asset. Um, but in saying that, it goes it gives them more volatility as well because now they can go in and out of it with ease. Um, I think a lot of the people who the bought the Bitcoin or like bought the ETF, when it first came out, and they saw increase as well. Like they saw like a good 20% increase. So that's a pretty good return. So it makes sense for them to start selling as well. Makes it like this would, perpetuate it more. Like, there's more coins coming onto the market. Better sell mine as they're high. Like, I got a 45, 50,000, now it's at 60,000, I'll sell it. And I think that's what's having the effect here. But I think at the end of the day, they're all going to come back anyway at some point.
I think eventually, like these guys been there for such a long time, they actually understand. They've been like the OGs of the Bitcoin, so they understand why it's needed, what are the fundamentals, and they know where it's headed in the long term, ultra long term, how valuable it is.
Hmm.
So I don't think even if they get that money, they're not going just going to sell it. And what they're going to do with it? They're going to come
Yeah,
back and buy it.
I don't think it's the actual Mt. Gox people who are looking to sell it. I think it's more the ETFs which are providing the sell pressure. Like this might come onto the market, might or might not. The Mt. Gox Bitcoin, like they might. I don't think they'll choose to sell it, but if they do, like in either case, I think that the speculation around that is what's driving the market to go down for these ETFs because the ETFs gives liquidity for the traders who don't care about the actual like Bitcoin, like what it is, what it does, like what's the utility of it. Like they just saw the money go up. They think it's a good time to sell. Like there's some news around, some fear around this, supply coming in, and they're going to sell that, and that's it.
Hmm.
They're just looking to make some quick money. That's all.
Hmm. So right now, this is how it feels. Those is just a little funny meme there. Right now, the way the Bitcoin holders will be feeling is the way the Mt. Gox, the government, and the US government selling, and it doesn't look great right now. So I thought it was just a little funny meme.
Yeah,
So I think Miles also put a nice little kind of good perspective on it, I guess. Like this is one of the most obvious long-term setups. Like you got the short-term noise of Mt. Gox, German selling, even the FTX being paid out and stuff like that. But if you actually look at it over a long period of time, you understand Bitcoin ETFs and even ETH ETFs that's coming up next week. They're getting a lot of people access to the Bitcoin. In the past it was so hard to like putting a hard wallet, having a seed phase, and storing on a hardware. It's not as easy as it's been, especially for institutional investors and some of the people want it was very hard for them to put big money into here. It's always been little retailers who have been interested in it. And also with the election cycle, I think right now there's been a lot of I think Bitcoin has become mainstream. A lot of politicians are talking about it in a positive way for the first time in all the 4 cycles we had. And even if you look at someone like Trump, like he's talking very positively about it, and he's so which is it's going to be good if he gets elected in later this year. And also you look at the $16 billion FTX payment too. It's not actually a bad thing when you think about it, because a lot of these guys are going to be getting that in USDC or some kind of airdrop. So if they get in that, then obviously they're going to get back into the market, and a lot of this money, if not all of it or some of it, will come back into the market again, which will only prop up all the assets anyway.
yeah. I mean, like looking at like from a Bitcoin perspective, like the ETFs just give access to more institutional investors, like a regulatory way to buy these assets and put them on their balance sheet. Um, I think, yeah, like that's like a long-term setup, but it also has that volatility as I said before, like this would give the opportunity for traders to kind of trade these assets in and out. That was there before, but I think this liquidity or like these ETFs make it just more liquid.
Hmm. So let's get to the next one. And it's also like I think this was also nice thing just to look at the hash rates where they were. I think during the FTX collapse, the hash rate was very close to the 7.6%. And right now, you look at the hash rate, they're pretty much the same place they were back then. So a lot of the miners have turned off the rigs, and a lot of them have stopped mining because a lot of the rigs, obviously because of the halving, are not profitable anymore. Like a lot of the old rigs were. A lot of them have to new rigs, and a lot of them were having not making money on the Bitcoin price, especially if it's dropping like it is. A lot of them are not profitable, so it's better for them to just turn off the rigs and not produce any of them too. Which is actually like it kind of shows a bottom too in that sense too.
Yeah, I was looking to buy a rig, but yeah, like the electricity cost and actually the amount, like how much I would get from it, it wasn't exactly something that's worth it. So it makes sense for these people who are invested so much into it to kind of shut it down for now and wait for the bottom to settle in, and then after the push up, after the price increases, then they can look at getting back in.
Hmm.
But yeah, where it makes more sense to yeah, just generate the Bitcoin.
Hmm. Next one. And I think Quinton too had a nice little trade just to give it a long that perspective on the market, just kind of focusing out, not looking at it from day to day basis, having a long term view and having a long enough horizon view. He said back in 2016, Bitcoin halving, it has taken about 182 days after the halving. It went on a sideways chop. In 2020, it went 160 days on a sideways chop. In 2024, so far, it only has been 76 days. I think like there's still a long way to go. It's like it can have probably even 74 more days, which is roughly about 3 more months of this sideways job before it got does have some kind of meaningful run to the high.
Yeah, like there's like another month and a half or so, um, like 2 months, yeah, basically 2.5 months, um, of this kind of sideways. I think we saw it in the chart before, like where the market is right now is where it was in February.
Yeah, it has like it's not big loss, and also like other thing too. There's a lot of talk about Fed cutting, and which will bring obviously liquidity back into the market. The QE will come into the market. So once that comes, obviously more liquidity in the market, it floats all the boats, all the assets will go up, hard assets, and it will float into crypto as well. So I think I think the next slide has some more information on this. So if you look at this one, it kind of breaks it down into monthly returns of Bitcoin in a chart format. So if you look at like July so far, I think this chart probably need to get upgraded in the July period just because of the downward drop we had. But usually, if you look at it, like September, October, November, December, those 4 months have been a really good month for Bitcoin. It usually rallies back up the here. If you look at September, hasn't been a great month, but October, November, December has been very consistently been a very good month. You get good size returns, so it's good that market is actually like if you look at a long term point of view, it's good that market is down now, flushing out all the short term holders, any kind of leverage that's been in the market, high side or low side, it's getting flushed out, and gives people that haven't had the opportunity to buy Bitcoin at a good enough price range, they're getting a chance to get in at a good price range too.
Yeah, I would personally look at it as a good price range to dip back into the market and look at DCAing back in. But I think to the point you said before about the possible rate cuts or possible like easing of monetary policy, I think with this ETF launch, yeah, like it'll give these financial institutions more like an easier way to get into this market. So I think that's where the key would be. If there's any rate cuts, that'd be interesting to see how they'll affect the extra money coming into these institutions. Um, yeah, to be able to use it for whether they'll use it for hard assets like Bitcoin or whether use it for stocks.
Yep. So next slide. And I think Adam Black summarized it perfectly. He said Reminder, Zoom at prior to bull runs always had a half dozen minus 30% drawdowns too. So that's has this is not something that's new. This happened in the past too. In the last bull runs too, we had a normal bull like market correction about 30 to 40%. And in Bitcoin, like especially in cryptocurrencies, that's very normal. These 40% corrections. It's not a big drawdown in that hindsight. So it's one of those good pullbacks that gives a lot of people a chance to get back into it. And anyone that's usually a lot of people go on this big leverages long, they just think, yep, and that usually flushes a lot of these people out. So what's your
Yeah, like
thoughts?
it, we saw like yeah, like six different near 30, 40% drops. So it's just a part of the like volatility that's innate with Bitcoin because it's such a true reflection. I think the ETFs make it more volatile now because of how liquid it is. But I think in general, like with the 21 million hard cap and like the supply being restricted on a daily basis to how much can be mined, it's very, very affected, like very volatile and affected by the buy and sell pressure that we see. And
Hmm.
that's why it's so volatile.
Yep. Let's go to the next one. Think this is like a bit more of a trend analysis to the 200-day daily moving average. Uh, if you look at this daily moving average, back it's like roughly that line goes around 58,200. We have broken below that right now. Uh, Usually, when the trend is below that, it's always been a good time to go short on the Bitcoin. When it's on the top of it, if it kind of bounces off that level and actually goes above that level, it's been a good time to buy it, which so that you can ride that wave up. So right now it's actually below that trend line right now, but we have to see how many days that actually stays there. If you look at it back in October 2023, if I'm guessing, that was there for a few months and then it had this nice big run back up. So it would be interesting to see, does it stay there? Does it get a like a rejection back of that line and moves down, or does it break through that line and goes up? So if it breaks through that line and goes up, it will have a bull run back to over 100k probably. But if it has a hard time breaking that, it will probably come back down. But with all the fundamentals, with the Fed rate cuts, with the political shift and ETFs, inflows, and everything like that, it's more likely looking like it's going to probably go up way more than the down ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bitcoin in the short term is very volatile and like can stay like in this sideways movement or downwards movement for quite some time. So, but you gotta look at it over the long term. You gotta span out years. You can't do months or days.
Hmm. Let's go to the next one. So obviously this one is like, so obviously it's kind of a bit of a hopium kind of thing. It's like you don't need a degree to tell what's happening, but it happened in 2012, 2016, 2020. If you look at those red bars there, we always had those pullbacks, and right now we're having one of those little pullbacks. But obviously, I don't think it will go as high as the last bull runs, just because how like it's the law of large numbers, right? Like you can't just compounding at 100%. Once the numbers get bigger and bigger, it's impossible. We don't have that much, like trillions of dollars in the economy to do that kind of thing. But I think it will probably more than likely maybe double, but you never know. So, but I think it's where we are. If you look at the charts, it looks like it's still so early in this bull run. So just something we need to keep in mind. Just relax a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a positive sign. Like, I think from what you can see from 2012 and 2016, before when market was a little less susceptible, like you saw these massive runs, like as soon as people understood what was happening. And in 2020, you saw the market dip, then market dip again, and then you saw the massive run. And I think you probably see something similar, like you saw the market dip, from 2020 to 2022, or 2021 to 2022. And then we have this nice little run up now. And then depending on what happened with the election cycle and other things, you might see another dip again. But I think the long-term narrative is still very strong, and I think it'll definitely it'll definitely go up.
Hmm. And it's not as small as back in the like if you look at the 2012, 2016, 2020, it was just getting to the $1 trillion market caps. It's bigger than that right now. So it will take a lot more money for this to move compared to the previous cycles. So don't expect those kind of returns this time around.
Yeah, I mean, like you can see in the 2012 chart, you went from $5 or like whatever you're saying, that's $5 to $115. That's
More than
like
100x.
that's 400x almost. Well, not 400x, but like. 210x or almost around
Hmm.
there. And then you see in the 2016, it's went from 400 to 7600, which is pretty high again. That's almost 200. And then we see here it's gone from 40,000 and it's apparently gone up to
I think 4,000 to
ish.
60,000.
Yeah, 4,000, 60,000. That's about 15x there. And so, even if you do it two, like, being conservative
I
and
think a
do
lot of
like
people
a,
will be very happy if it just does a 2x right now.
yeah, 2x, 1.5x, like
Yeah.
that's above
That's probably
100k.
something reasonable at this time around, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to expect it to go to like 700k, but like you can expect it to, increase by like
I
30,
think it's got
40%.
700k. A lot of people probably selling it.
But yeah, I mean, like that's like I would be more worried about other things in the market, like the price of real estate and other things, if Bitcoin's at 700k.
Hmm. I think it's the same. Like I think Rec Capital also got it in Australia. Obviously, said Bitcoin peaked back in 2015 or 2017 cycle in about 518 days. After the halving, that is, in 2019 to 21 cycle, it peaked at 546 days after the halving. So if the history repeats, the bull market will end after roughly around 518 to 546 days after the halving. So obviously the halving has happened in April this year. So the the mid September to mid October period, according to his calculations, mid September to mid October 2025 is where likely the Bitcoin could be topping. That's where the top of the market could be. So where that's still like roughly right now, if you look at it, that's still 260 days away from where we are right now. Uh, right now, I think like looking at where we are on the chart, it'd be like roughly everyone estimation roughly around 145 to 245, the price range where it can top out. That's a big, obviously. There's a lot of price targets over 600, 700 too, but I think a lot of the people are conservatively telling around 245 to 250 is where it's going to top out this time around. But the other thing too is because everyone's expecting it, there's a high chance it will not happen too. Because everyone will front run it, because everyone thinks it's going to be selling at 250. Probably a lot of people will sell at 230 and stuff like that too. You never know how the market will think, but it's something to everyone to keep in mind what could happen.
Yeah, I mean, with this price targets, like anything can happen. Like it might go to like 30k, but like at the end of the day,
Exactly.
like with Bitcoin, the main thing you need to understand is like the supply and demand is very transparent. So like it's people willing to buy it. Like people are willing to understand what the utility of it is. Like the ETFs will give this volatility innately because those people who are buying the ETFs are mainly just traders and like people who don't actually understand what the crypto is or like what the underlying asset is trying to do. So they'll buy it. It goes up 20%, they'll sell. They won't look at it in terms of like what the utility of it is because they're not using it for anything other than to make more USD.
Hmm.
So they're not looking for anything else. So I think these price targets are nice to have to understand the trends and like to kind of put expectations in. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think as more people understand Bitcoin, the price will go up.
Hmm. So I think LG also have a little chat like whatever happened like I think during the start of the year, obviously in the charts he's telling like during the start of the year when we got the ETF approval, everyone thought prices will go up, and instead we had a tank in the Bitcoin prices kind of thing, and that has given that kind of I think obviously you can look at the chart, it kind of bottomed around 40,000 kind of thing, came up back to the 40,000 mark after it's going to 48k. A lot of people thought it's gonna push to the 50k mark kind of thing, but it actually had a dip down. And it kind of consolidated there for a few days, I think a couple of weeks there, I think 3 or 4 weeks. Then it started to move up and it eventually went on this nice run up. Right now, it's been in that like since the April mark, it peaked out and it's kind of been on this side of its trajectory. Now it had a bottom down, so I think that's what we're expecting. It will come back down to roughly 54,000, which I think it hit yesterday, I think. And we can see this, having a nice run up too once all this liquidity gets flushed into the market.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be nice if it goes to like 100k.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it'll go because like the timeline there, looking at here, it will be around end of. Well, they're saying start of September, but like I'm sure it'll be towards the end of September or like
Like
early
it's
October.
interesting you saying that, but I don't like the way if we look at the previous couple of chats before when we looked at a lot of the a lot of the price momentum has happened after September. So it may not exactly look the way he's predicting. It could be like after September, you can see some kind of run too. So until then, it could probably just chop sideways a few more months. But
Yeah,
who knows?
I think it will. I think that's what my expectation would be. I don't think it'll be going up and down. I think it'll be in this like 55 to 65 range. It'll be going up and down until we get some understanding of regarding like rate cuts, understanding about like who's going to be the next president, and other market forces. I think once those uncertainties have been flushed out, we would
And
see
I think a
what
lot of time too, like if you look at the way if everyone's like selling it, it doesn't like even the German government hasn't have to sell all the Bitcoin before the market goes up because if everyone knows that they only got like a couple of thousand left over, the market will start going higher because they know it's only be a couple of thousand they're going to sell. Maximum that's all going to sell. It all gets priced into the market, right? So the market will price that in and they'll start going up.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
So obviously Bitcoin for Freedom, he put a nice little couple of lines there. He said, what do you think happens with the price of Bitcoin when everyone selling like miners, weekend gox, and it's all over? When you got Michael Dell and Saylor announcing that they're going to be buying more. I guess that's something for everyone to keep in mind.
Yeah, I mean, like
So
these, like we have these people like who are buying no matter what, like Mr. 100 and all these people, and
they're timing it well too. When it's down there, like that's the funny thing. They're quiet and they buy when the Bitcoin is down, and they buy big, and they kind of show how it should be done too. Having that, I think that kind of what you can that kind of like you have to do your research before you go start buying. Not buying then doing the research.
no, I think they just have conviction in the asset itself. So, like even when Michael Saylor is buying, like, a couple of times when he's bought, the market went down another 5-10% from when he's bought, but he
Hmm.
just bought more.
Hmm.
Right? So he's like he doesn't care. Like if it drops, he's buying. That's what he's doing.
And that's one of the other important things. So it's not just buying something just because some two people on internet saying or some random person on the street saying. It's actually someone actually putting the time into actually understanding the asset that give you conviction because you understand what it is. Then you can invest with confidence. I think that's a lot of the things we even both of us are trying to say is, I guess like don't just buy because someone's telling you. Go do your own research, understand what you're putting your hard-earned money into so that before you put some a dollar into it, then when the time comes, a share price or whatever, even the Bitcoin falling, you'll have that confidence to put more money towards it or even buy more of it because you understand the underlying asset. If you don't understand it, you don't know what you're investing in. You probably get all stressed out because the price is dropping by a couple of percent.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what the traders do. That's why you see this internal volatility with these ETFs is like the traders they're just looking to make money. So like if it goes up, that's great, and then if it goes down, sell, sell, sell.
Hmm.
So, but if you understood the asset, you'd be more like Sailor, you'd be more like these other people who are buying big when it drops because they
Hmm.
know what they're buying and they know it's good to have it than not to have it. But at the end of the day, you have to do your own research and do what's best for you.
Yep. And it's also like I think this is something I thought there was a nice this one too, just to show up like how that 21 million Bitcoin has been distributed so far. If you look at it on this one, you see that 17.6% of that Bitcoin out of the 21 million Bitcoin is lost already. So we don't have that much left over outside. And if you look at the garments that the FUD of government selling, it's not a lot. They don't hold a lot of it. It's only 2.7%. Bitcoin ETFs, like they've only been what probably 4 or 5 months. They already own 3.9%. And we look at corporations, they're only 3.26%. But you also heard someone like Square Block, so-called now, they're also putting their profits into Bitcoin now. I think the Bitcoin ETFs and the corporations, I think their pie of the Bitcoin will start increasing now moving forward, I feel like. And especially with the ETFs, which made it easier for corporations to just, instead of buying reserves of government reserves, they can start allocating a little bit of that couple of $1 billion or whatever they got, I guess, start putting a little bit towards the Bitcoin because they don't have to go do the research on how to store it, how to custody, all this other research they don't have to do it now. ETFs have made that easy for them and even the government regulations, which had made it easy for the corporations. I think moving forward, next few years down the track, I feel like corporations and Bitcoin ETFs will probably get a bigger slice of this pie.
Yeah, I think with this chart, like you'll see that a lot of these companies are now basically DCing into it. Like it's a time now where it's at a price point where you kind of just have to DCA into it. Like it would make it makes sense to put it on the reserve, and then DCA into it over time. Like don't worry about the price. It's about just having that stability in your reserves.
Hmm. And obviously, like a last little chart, I'll just kind of see if I can blow it up. Kind of shows like obviously the way the bull run happened in 2011 to 2015, and sorry 2013, and in the 2014 to 2017, and so on. So far obviously say that 2024 we're still in very early phase of the bull run. I think it will probably, as you said, later in this year and early next year is when you're going to see that a lot of that big run up in the price. So next couple of months it could be choppy, it can go down, it can go sideways, who knows. But right now it's a good time to just stack, keep stacking, keep stacking. That's it.
Yeah, I think the main thing you have to see there is that like there's in the bear market it's a pretty steep drop, and then there's quite long periods of just fluctuations. And like even in the fluctuations, like you'll see drops. Like you can see there in the 2019, like after the peak in 2019, you see it dropped quite a bit. And then it dropped further in COVID and then rose all the way up. And you can see the similar drop in 2012 right towards the end there. In that second screenshot, there's a steep drop. Same in 2015, towards the end of 2015, steep
And
drop.
it says like 2012 and 2012 both times. I'm guessing that could be 2014 on the end there. So I think they got the 2013 wrong. But as you said, like in 2012, they had that big drop down. And in 2013 too, they had that big drop right at the end of the photo there. You can see it just dropped a lot there. So I think that's pretty normal as you can tell and nothing to be worried about.
Yeah, I think the main thing that we take away from this, like previous back to like what Adam Back put in that screenshot, is there is a these drops are normal. Like there's nothing to be worried about.
Mm. I think we don't have a lot of time to say. I only got like 3 or 4 minutes. So we'll quickly run through the next couple of slides.
Yep.
So obviously, I think Investance has put a nice little trade out this morning saying that German government, obviously they're buying back some of the Bitcoin they're going to be selling. So obviously, apparently they're buying back some of it. So it's nice to see they actually change their mind on it. But we have to see how that plays out next few weeks, I guess, just to see what the intention was on this. But right now, it looks like they're buying some of that Bitcoin they sold. And we also got German parliamentarian Johanna, uh, Joanne, I think, yeah, Joanne. Sorry, I got the name wrong. Um, she urges that Bitcoin should be held as a reserve currency. She's been telling the German government. She also told them that I think they got some kind of conference that happening later in the next couple of months that everyone should, all the parliamentarians should be attending and educating themselves on Bitcoin. I think which is a good thing, and I think if that happens, and hopefully there's crypto regulations in Europe will also be very favorable, hopefully in the future, if that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a start. It started with the companies, and like it started with individuals, then it went into like small companies. Then you have like small, like towns and cities, and people who really need it, like people like in uh like the third world countries who really need it, like in Africa and South America, and now like they're really starting to understand like the first world countries, like why it's important.
Obviously, that's exactly the point here. Is like after starting Bitcoin for 1 hour, 10 hours, 100 hours, and 1,000 hours, and 10,000 hours. And as you said, it's the education part of it. It's just not just buy something just because someone tells you to buy it. Actually, putting the hours in, understanding what it is, understanding the implications of what it can do, and how it can help as a reserve currency, how it can actually play against this inflation that we're getting on. So I think that's the main thing. I think the main important takeaway from any of this is that actually going and putting the hours into understanding what Bitcoin is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like in the previous point, like a lot of the first world doesn't really need to understand it. Like we have a lot of the services, like everything already sorted. Like a lot of there's no real problems in the first world countries. They're really minor problems that we have. Like we don't really need to worry about money, but it's getting to a stage now where people need to worry about money. Like housing is too much, like inflation's too much, the cost of goods and services is becoming too much. So now people really need to start looking at it. Like a lot of third world countries have already are in this or gone through this multiple times, and so they've understood the
Especially
value of this.
Argentina and stuff like that already. have seen the implications of it. I think the current president, I think, is doing some really great innovations around it in Argentina. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
actually already understand it. I guess just that I think the first world countries are the ones that need to get more education on this. I guess yeah.
Yeah, and it starts with the ETFs. I think that'll just go bigger from there.
I think that's it, Si. Obviously, right now, I just thought I'd put a little meme out there saying that everyone's selling Bitcoin and buying Tesla. I think Tesla has been rocketing higher. Obviously, in our next video, we'll talk about Tesla, why it has rocketed higher, and we'll look into what are some of the key events around it. I guess what's coming up in next couple of months for it, and let's see where that stock can head in next 6 to 8 months. I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I think Tesla and Bitcoin are very tied in more ways than people think, mainly because Tesla's an electric car, like it's revolutionizing the EV space and like how power and battery power is used. And this battery power and energy is needed to mine Bitcoin. So if you're able to do it in a renewable way, then that's even better for everyone.
Hmm. That's it. As always, thanks for coming, Si, and we'll catch up later in the week, and we'll talk about Tesla. I guess, yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.